Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and call to order this Tuesday, March 24th meeting of the City Commission for Coffeyville. Invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Mike Elrod from Westside Christian. And if you would please put your phones on silent or turn them off so that they don't light off during the meeting and cause your neighbor to jump. Thank you very much. Please welcome Pastor Elrod and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you for having me come and do this. Let's pray. My Father who art in heaven, and also dwelling in all of those that belong to you here, we thank you for all that you do. We thank you that we get to come to you and ask for just help when we need help. I thank you for all these men and these ladies that are up here in front and the jobs that they have and the importance of the jobs. They have a lot of responsibility that they have to shoulder daily with their jobs, and so I know that they need wisdom. Your word tells us that if we ask you for wisdom, that you will grant it to us. And so on behalf of them today, I ask, Lord, that you give them wisdom, that you'll help them with the decisions that they make, that they would be able to make them rightly and justly and correctly, that you give them the ability to make those kinds of decisions quickly as well. Father, your word also tells us that the fear of you is the beginning of that wisdom, and a good understanding comes by being obedient to your commands. So I also pray, Lord, that you'll just help them gain this honor of you and respect of you, that they may have this wisdom, not only here, but also every aspect of their life. So I pray, Father, that as they do that, you'll not withhold your blessing, but that your blessing will come upon them, and that they would just be led by you. We thank you, Father, that you are the guide. We thank you that not only are you dwelling in heaven, but that your kingdom is come upon this earth, and that is what we seek. So we pray, Father, that you will just be with this meeting, and also that you would be with all those who participate out here in the audience, that you will just guide them as well. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone. You may be seated. And we have already been notified that by... Oh, there he is. I was about to say, you'll be joining us in a few minutes.
We can only wish.
Take your seat, Commissioner Williams. First on the list, this is a review of agenda. We did get a revised agenda. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at that? Okay. Next on the list is the consent agenda, regular City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, March 10th. Appropriation ordinance AO-15-05 in the amount of $10,731,779.52. And appropriation ordinance AO-15-05A in the amount of $1,052,613. Commissioners, any questions, additions or corrections to previous minutes, or questions on the ordinances?
Mine have already been answered.
I have none.
All right, then I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Parker, seconded by Commissioner Williams to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Castle.
Aye.
Mayor Parker.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Next on the list, under public hearings, special presentations, and proclamations, I have a proclamation to read. And Ms. Kathy Shepard, representing RSVP from 4 County Mental Health. Will you please come forward? Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs, and whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and nation, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families, to preserving the environment and helping communities recover from natural disasters. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas AmeriCorps members of Senior Corps volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with mayors across the country to support Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. Now therefore, I, James Faulkner, Mayor of the City of Coffeyville, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 7th, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day, and do hereby encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of service to the city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to the community. In witness whereof I have turned to set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Coffeyville, Kansas to be affixed this 24th day of March, 2015. Signed, James Faulkner, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say?
Sure. My name is Kathy Shepard, and I am the coordinator for RSVP 4 County, which is Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, which is a part of Senior Corps. In 2013, Mayor's Day of Recognition began, and last year over 1,760 mayors from across the nation joined together to recognize the impact of national service and to honor those who serve. Together, these mayors represent more than 110 million citizens, or nearly 1/3 of all Americans. Coffeyville and your mayors have participated in this effort from the start, recognizing the impact of citizens in our community that they have on others in need. RSVP has been working with volunteers in our local communities since 2010, with well over 200 volunteers serving. Whether delivering Meals on Wheels, working in food pantries, providing transportation, or serving our veterans and military families, volunteers locally have given close to 50,000 hours through RSVP 4 County, and there are countless hours that are given to organizations outside of our program that are not recorded. Just last year, over 14,000 hours were given locally by RSVP volunteers in this service area. This includes 23,586 miles that were driven providing transportation to medical appointments for those who could not get there. RSVP is very grateful for all the volunteer hours that are given and excited that Coffeyville is again recognizing the significance of volunteering and the impact it has on others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all that you do for us. Next is a presentation by Peak Uptime on our fiber consideration, fiber to the home. And Chris Felix will make introductory remarks and introduce representatives from Peak Uptime.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Thank you for your consideration tonight in reviewing our proposal for fiber to the home. There's a great team of people here, and I'm going to let Pete Uptime introduce them, and I'm going to turn the mic over to them. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thank you, commissioners and constituents. It's an honor to be here. Always a joy to experience one of these meetings and see the business of the people being done. We often don't have the opportunity to do that, so it's really an honor to be here. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit very quickly. I'm the president and CEO of Peak Uptime. We are headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have operations in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. I had the joy of being a very active participant in the build-out of the fiber infrastructure in the United States, and actually have participated in connecting that fiber infrastructure around the globe. I work for a company in Tulsa called the Williams Companies, which has natural gas and now through Magellan midstream operations in the state of Kansas. And in 1986 was part of a team that put the business plan together and went out and pulled fiber optic cable both on that pipeline right-of-way and in decommissioned pipe. Another participant here tonight is Joe Gorkas. If Joe will just raise his hand. Joe was a thought leader in the 80s in that fiber construction project for the Williams Companies. The company was called Wiltel, and Joe has subsequently stayed very much engaged in building hundreds and thousands of miles of fiber, both in the U.S. and interconnecting in the world. I also had the pleasure, representing that company, Wiltel, of being with the National Science Foundation at the initial and early commercialization of the Internet, and with two fiber companies, then known as MCI, now part of Verizon, and then known as Wiltel. We sat with the National Science Foundation and the National Research and Education Network and conceptualized what is now the Internet that we all experience. I think tonight's a very important discussion for you. We're going to push through an agenda that gives you just a quick introduction of Peak Uptime, a quick introduction of a team that has rallied around what we see as a unique opportunity for you to leverage your position and infrastructure here in Coffeyville. And then Matt Ald, one of my team members, will talk through some of the economics of what could be and should be a very unique opportunity for you to consider tonight. So I want to start with a quote, and this quote comes from a very interesting book. If you have a chance to read it, I didn't bring the book to bore you, but the author is Thomas Friedman, and the book is called The World is Flat. And if you've had the opportunity to read it, it's very interesting. And I want to just start conceptually by saying the world is flat not simply due to transportation improvements and the fact that we can get on planes and fly anywhere in the world. More importantly, the world is flat because it's a networked economy. This world is operating on network infrastructure, both wired and wireless, and the wired economy started to approach what it is today in the late 90s and through the 2000s, and we're seeing the fundamental shift in the economy principally driven by that network infrastructure. So some of what we talk about tonight is really, it's nitty gritty, and you see that we have some fiber and distribution that you can touch over here, but the real truth is what Thomas Friedman said is the role of a politician in America, whether at the local, state, or national level, is in good part to help educate and explain to people the world they are living in. And part of what we're discussing today is a world that is very much networked. So start with that quote and the thought. The world is flat. Coffeyville, Kansas has the equivalent ability to compete with anyone in India, anyone in China, anyone in South America with the proper network infrastructure. You can flatten the competitive field by considering this investment and this opportunity tonight. Peak uptime, I think it's important for you to know who's standing before you. I've been with Peak for 9 years. We have grown significantly during that time. We've benefited and delighted in serving you as a partner in your IT infrastructure. So we've been a partner for a number of years with you, and it's been our joy to serve you in that way. Our purpose, though, in all that we do is to deploy technology in such a way that it makes a difference for the customers that we serve. 40 to 60% of our business, depending on the year, is in the state, local, and education arena. One of my greatest joys is to serve municipalities, higher ed, career tech, and K-12 education. So we have been very active in the K-12 world. We also actively serve career tech in higher ed. One of our biggest projects in the year 2014 was Allen County Community College, and we have gone through an assessment, design, implementation, and management of Allen County Community College, where we have abstracted some of their computing into the cloud, including backup and disaster recovery, but also reinvigorated their core infrastructure at their campuses. We love projects like that. Our team loves projects like that, because we can get in, we can take our knowledge, we can deploy, and we can see a difference being made in education. So we have a array of clients we serve, enterprise, as I mentioned, state, local, and education. But we also have industry-leading technology partners. And tonight, and I will apologize for maybe filling up the chairs too much for the Coffeyville constituents, but we have 12 representatives from multiple companies that have all come in as thought leaders to attack what we believe is a very unique opportunity for you to leverage what you have in infrastructure and consider a direct fiber investment. So with the city of Coffeyville at the middle, I've introduced peak uptime. I'm just going to have given the mechanics of what we have here, if the TE team would stand first, the Extreme team, the ADB team, and the Graybar team. So we have 12 representatives here that are subject matter experts in this field. Thanks, team. And this team's going to be here to answer questions as we go through, as a panel to answer questions as we go through this process. Down the bottom right of the presentation is a thought we'd also like. This is just planting a seed of thought with you. And I thought if our Graybar team would like to express what the art of the possible is with U.S. communities, it'd be great. And I think we should come up here and use the microphone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. U.S. Communities is a program of which Graybar is the current contract holder. It's a program that was created by the City and County of Los Angeles that over 55,000 municipalities use nationwide. It's a community purchasing organization that's bid annually, and Graybar has continued to hold that contract, I believe, for the last 15 years. It's a program that assures you best pricing when it comes to product. It's also a program in which we can bundle labor services and roll a lot of things into that, so you've essentially got one throat to choke when it comes down to the project itself. Another benefit of not only the U.S. Communities program, Graybar also offers a program called Graybar Financial Services, in which we've worked with many municipalities in a lease option to build a network infrastructure such as you guys are talking about. So that's something that I'll be glad to engage with your team on as we hopefully move forward with the project. But thank you so much again for tonight, and we look forward to the rest of the presentation.
Great. Thank you. Now to a little bit of my meat, and this is going to be at a fairly high level. But I already started with this discussion of we live in a networked economy. You're starting to hear there's oftentimes too many words, but the Internet of everything. In a very global scale, that's a $19 trillion market that is emerging, with a significant portion of that, $4.6 trillion, being in the public sector. What does that mean? You know, it's a lot of words, and at times difficult to describe for those that participate in the technology. But in simple terms, networking has turned into the ability to understand and know an IP address for virtually any device. You're aware of smart grid devices now being deployed in support of the electrical infrastructure. You can have personalized retail experiences when you walk through a store. There's significant efficiency now coming in manufacturing through controls, but also for consumers with this same capability to deploy in your networks. So you can turn your lights on and off. You can open your garage door, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want to bore you with the overhype that can exist with this, but you need to understand conceptually that a rock-solid network is at the foundation of a networked economy. The Internet of Things is a great concept, and we're all seeing, feeling, and understanding it, but at its core, it has to move on a rock-solid network with high capacity, and that's what we're considering and discussing tonight. The question of why should we do this, why should we be considering this when we have carriers and cable companies that are very capable of doing portions of this and have invested somewhat in doing this, it is a very unique one. The fact is that in this global economy that's operating and in a networked economy, the fact is that companies like AT&T, like Verizon, like some of the large cables like Comcast and perhaps even Cox, are spending most, if not all, of their effort in this global economy. So I'll give you an example for my company. My company, Peak Uptime, has more direct selling and engineering resources in the state of Oklahoma and Kansas than AT&T. Why would that be? AT&T has spent most of their effort pushing a lot of their investment into this global networked economy. So, you don't want to overstate this, but when the budget comes in and the question is whether or not they're going to light up Coffeyville, Kansas or Beijing, China, I think you can make your own decision as to where they're probably investing in this global economy. So the big players are very active. There's some new entrants like Google. Google has introduced its services in Kansas City. You can read some of the market research about the success of that. We're excited to see Google participate in that way, but none of those participants have the advantage of what you have in place, and that is your infrastructure. So you have invested in your power previously. That infrastructure can be leveraged in a meaningful way to deliver fiber to the home for your constituents and fiber into your business and your education community. So you've invested. We're here as a partner saying leverage that historical investment in delivering what is the next utility to the home, which is a quality network experience, wired. You have an exceptional wireless infrastructure working today. Your team will continue to look at how it continues to deploy wireless infrastructure, but the fact is, going back to this core where you need speed and capacity to participate in this global networked economy. So you have an advantage, and you've invested, and the constituents have invested in this infrastructure that can be leveraged into this network opportunity. There's also a fact, and the fact is, in February of this year, and this was well-timed in terms of our ability to be in front of you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, because regulation is changing. And in February, the federal regulation changed, and we won't go into the complexities of that, but the essence of that message is network capacity is going to be treated from a regulatory framework, federal, more like a utility. I think you are subject matter experts in delivering utility services. The fact that we're in front of you and have built this team of participants to bring this opportunity before you is well-timed. It truly is. So the regulatory framework is changing. It actually is going to perhaps cause, moving up 2 lines, the large carrier to spend less in the domestic U.S. fiber infrastructure because they have a preference, and you can see in their language and in their messaging and their legal filings that they don't like that concept. So in summary from my piece, I believe you have a unique opportunity to act for and on behalf of your constituents. You've invested previously in utility infrastructure. The conceptual design and actual design that we proactively invested with, as a team to deliver this capability is something I would really strongly have you consider. Tried to get a little fun with maybe a tagline, but we'd love to see you gigify Coffeyville. So thank you for your time. At this time, I'd like to introduce Matt Auld, who is our Regional Vice President in Kansas City, and Matt will take you through some more specifics. If you'd like, I can take any questions on this portion at this time if you'd like, or we can hold off till the end.
Where's one off to the end?
Go ahead.
And extending appreciation as well to you, Mr. Mayor, and to the commissioners for giving us this opportunity. It's not something that we just started overnight, and we've been working with Chris for some time with building this vision. And you'll see that the approach that was taken and we were asked to look at is a phased approach, starting with the build out of the fiber core to support the network. And then the network would roll out into 5 phases based upon the needs and the desires of the constituents. Each phase will be built out in the performance that I show you tonight based upon a 35% capacity. And then as you have growth, additional capacity can be added to each one of these little yellow dots that are outdoor distribution frames to support your network. The core network that's been selected is partnering with Extreme Networks as a core design that will give the delivery capabilities from the beginning to the end and delivering the capability of the homeowner to decide what they want from an internet perspective. So today I have 5 megabits on my basic rate plan of $20, and tomorrow I think, hey, I want 10 meg. They can log into a website, they can change to a 10 meg usage, get an immediate change based upon this active network. It'll automatically change the billing system and trigger for invoicing to match what their changes have been based upon what they want. So it's a simplified network. It's simple to manage, and most of this design with the assistance of Extreme Networks and peak uptime, including Extreme Networks Raleigh, North Carolina laboratories, who did build out most of this core and test it for us, and has nearly 85% of this already completed, ready to roll out from a configuration standpoint. So it's proven. We've done a proof of concept. We know it functions well, and we know it's easy to manage. So this would be simply what the initial phase 1 core would look like. And then as we roll out through the city, we would build redundancy so that we have failover capabilities, no single point of failure in the network, and we expand each one of the distribution frames to be able to support those areas, those sections that you saw that were the little colored areas would have the ability to support the homes in that particular section. You may see some things here that may go into a little bit more technical, but I just wanted you to have the understanding that this wasn't something that we just dreamed up overnight. There's been a lot of work and consulting that have gone into this. If it's something that you would have hired us for, you would have probably paid us $60,000 by now. The network configuration done by Extreme at no charge by itself would easily cost $25,000 to have done. So there's been good investment, a great team behind this to deliver it, and it's simple to deploy and simple to manage. Here's a little bit of the back end, and Gordon mentioned you have some things laying over here on the table that talk a little bit about the technology brought to us in the designs and engineering of TE and AFL, the assistance of Graybar, and trying to, once again, simplify the build-out and the capabilities to expand, and using some of this technology that you see here with what's called an MST, and then allows a cable to be dropped into the home with a independent switch to provide them the network capability, whatever they choose.
So then these lines would be hung on the poles, they would not be buried underground?
That is correct. So,
is that industry standard?
you know, I'm going to let one of our TE guys answer that, or Jason. One of you want to talk to that point?
Yes, actually, whether it's buried or aerial, both are completely industry standard and support. I think the point to the aerial plant was that the city is, as the facilitator of the utility, already owns those, and an aerial plant like this is typically the most cost-effective way to deploy services throughout a community. So the fact that the municipality already has the utility kind of leverages an investment that the city's already made. But they are both standard supported.
When you look at the build-out design that went into Kansas City with Google, there'll be a combination, and just like there is here, I know you have some areas that are underground, and of course we'll have to deliver those as underground. It'll be a similar type of distribution, but it's just going to be that the cable goes underground. But and in the sense of what Google has done in the build-out in Kansas City, it's a combination of both, overhead pole and underground, depending on where it's most efficient for them. And as he mentioned as well, the fact that you own your infrastructure, your poles, your utility lines, moves you way ahead from an economic standpoint. We did some math, for example, and we'll talk a little bit more about the performance and the assumptions, but speaking of the build-out costs for Kansas City and Google rounds up to about $900 a home. That gets the fiber in the area, and that gets it dropped to the home. This project is going to be done for a fourth of that. So the
Real quickly, if I could just add, this
Sure.
particular product can go aerial, it can go underground, it can go on a handhole, it can go on a pedestal, so you can use this and have backups or flexibility, so you can go aerial, you can go buried. This product isn't, necessarily designated only for a hole.
And the USDA does have a complete set of standards for aerial construction, Jason's very familiar with, which is also known as the Rural Utility Service. They have a complete set of standards for aerial construction, which all of these products meet.
A little wider view kind of expands what she was speaking to, showing both aerial, underground, really what it looks like bringing this in as a whole, and showing how it ties back into your fiber distribution hub that will support your network capabilities. So we talked about the simplicity of management of the network, and one of the things that we're able to deliver with an active network versus a passive network is using some of Extreme's software technologies like Purview, their network access control capabilities, and allowing that automatic capabilities of a homeowner being able to decide what they want to do any given day and make a change in the network. So the configurations are part of the software fabric, if you would, and
once I make a change, there's configurations that says Matt Ald wants to go to 20 meg. All of the configuration tables are updated automatically. I get 20 meg instantaneously, and then I get my next bill that increased my rate. And much simpler to manage. It's very scalable. It doesn't take somebody going out to a switch. You don't have to send a technician out to do something at a distribution frame. You don't have to get somebody up in the middle of the night to go to City Hall and plug in something. It's all very automated and simple.
Who's going to take care of troubleshooting if something does happen? Would it be the city, or would they call?
Yeah, you will have both 7x24 technical assistants, and your choice will be, and it's something we've been discussing with James and Chris, is we have two options. We can either allow our managed services team to manage those calls, or you can have maybe daytime calls still come into the city, and after hours would go to our network operations center. So
I want to apologize. We've discussed in generic terms a fiber to the home project for several years now. What are we being asked to do tonight?
I asked the mayor, and I think he asked the commissioners about maybe a month ago, that we had this team of people who had put in some time and effort into building a model for fiber to the home for Coffeyville. And if you all wanted to listen to a presentation that they had, and my understanding is that he polled the commission and the answer was yes.
And but my question is, what is the purpose of this presentation?
Informational. Only.
I understand that. Are we being asked to spend money? Are we being asked to partner with these people? Are we being asked to spend our own money to hire them to build this network? What are we being asked to do?
I think you're just being asked to listen and then decide.
Are you going to make a presentation with different options?
Well, the only thing that we put together, of course, this design over this period of time, along with this team that's assembled here with me tonight, we came up with financial options. Originally, we had looked at financial performance based upon bond. We've looked at borrowing. Jamie mentioned leasing options. So right now, it's more of whether it's a partnership, a direct investment, if you sell bonds. It's more about here's the design, here's the pro forma. We're just opening up the discussion with you about how we can best serve you to move forward. Does that make sense?
I'm confused because, let's say we're going to build a new emergency services building. Would we have a contractor come in here before we even let it out for bids and have a contractor come in here and give us a sales pitch? And at that, on a project that's going to be many millions of dollars, I express this concern to you and to you. We're 2 weeks away from an election. 3 of the 5 people up here could be different people in 2 weeks.
Right.
Or in 3 weeks of the next meeting. Why are we? This timing this just doesn't smell right. There's something that doesn't make sense here.
Just from an informational standpoint, for your benefit as well, and for the audience, as Commissioner Edwards mentioned, we've been kicking around fiber as a fiber to the home project for several years. With the recent departure of Amazon and Southwire from the community, part of that process involved the retaining a consultant to help us fill those 2 very large buildings out there. Part of the discussion our city staff had with that consultant was that it was absolutely mission critical, drop dead, that we have fiber optic internet access in the industrial park. And oh, by the way, your phase proposal ignores that area of the geography of the town. but it's absolutely mission critical that we have that. Otherwise, we might as well forget it, because the major metropolitan areas do have it, and as you mentioned earlier, with it, the playing field, it helps flatten the playing field.
Well, let's go ahead and let them finish their presentation, but
That's what I was going to suggest.
let's try to wrap this up.
I was going to suggest that for the purposes of tonight, that we let them, this is required no action.
No action.
So for the purposes of tonight, I suggest that we let them fulfill their obligation to present their presentation, and then we move forward with their own discussion.
I do want to, I'll close by saying that as public servants and as stewards of the public money, we're also in a position where it's our responsibility to get the biggest bang for the buck that we can. So to that extent, we will in fact be looking at all possible options.
Certainly.
In order to determine just exactly what is the best possible combination, whether it's public, private, a combination of the two, with you, with someone else, in order to meet the needs in the home, industry, our public utilities, and other taxing entities in the area.
How much longer do you need to complete your presentation?
Excuse me?
How much longer would you like to complete your presentation?
We're about 3 or 4 slides to the end.
Well, I need to answer Don's, question about the smells. I asked the commission if they wanted to do this through the mayor, and he told me, yes, go ahead and do it on this date.
Okay, we can discuss that later. Let's go ahead.
One thing, I just want to throw something out there. I recall the I don't remember who or when or whatever, but I remember being asked if we would like to look at this information. My response was, it doesn't cost anything to listen to people talk and give us information. It's my understanding that this is simply for informational purposes only.
Correct.
Proceed, sir.
Okay. And to your point about the build-out, we had just asked to look at this in phases. It doesn't matter. I mean, phase 5 can be the first one you build out that includes the industrial park, or it's not important from our perspective. And quite frankly, it's only a financial gain for you if you look at it in phases. It doesn't really affect the project or where it would start or where it would end. So based upon this, and of course, I've made this available to James and to your CFO. These are just some assumptions of costs and build out based upon the fiber and the core network, assumptions of payback and cost of the money, what you would charge based upon the information given to us from Chris. So the modeling is all based upon these numbers and based upon these assumptions. We did a best case and a worst case scenario on the assumptions and built revenue models that were based upon 35% usage in each one of the rollout phases. So they're very conservative and reasonable with other cities in the way that they've rolled out. Your ROIs on your best case would be 4.2 year payback, worst case 6.38 years. Your projected cash flow scenarios, you'll see that they're a little bit skewed because of the way that it was phased in, because if you started with an investment in year 1, you actually would see a larger cash flow scenario moving into year 3, but we pretended like phases were years, but then we switched over to years in year 6 and beyond. And the payback periods falling in line both with your worst case and your best case scenarios. And then we'll have projections on both the worst case and best case, and you'll see where the formulas came from. We were pleased to help build these. However, I didn't build them. Our parent company, which is an energy company, we were helped by some of their cash flow management and their CFOs to help build this return on investment model for you. It's nice. It's got some, again, Chris has the model. You're able to change assumptions. You can make, change your pricing to the homeowners. You can change the rate of increase, and everything will change within the calculator for you to be able to look at different best and worst case scenarios on a build out. And that is the end of the presentation, and would like to open it up for any additional comments or questions that you have for us.
Would you be able to email us this slide presentation?
3 things. Can we get all that information sent to us via email? And what? Yes. Second question is that we can have that put out there on the website too for folks to look at home. I guess that's more than 2 questions, but I got more. Third thing is I appreciate you guys coming to Coffeyville and bringing your information and looking at our infrastructure and kind of giving us some ideas of what we need to do and what we need to strive for in the future. I really appreciate you guys' time and the effort that you put into this project. Fourth thing, 2 minutes. Can you give me a rundown of what all that is? It's just the 2-minute version.
Where's my 2-minute version?
2-minute version. We just brought along some of the typical products that are used in an outside plant installation. There's a chunk of frame over there that we used at the head end. We just kind of showed the functionality of it. It's important to have this that kind of easy to use functionality when you've got people who need to troubleshoot the system or doing new installations. We've also got just outside plant splice closures, some drop fittings, the actual drop cables that go to the homes. Just things that honestly you're walking through.
So that's all your hardware that you're going to put that you would if.
This is what you would see aerially.
Okay.
It would take service to your home.
Okay.
It's a lot of stuff that honestly you walk through the street every day and you don't notice it's there. It's just a chance for you to put your hands on it, maybe ask some questions and look at it.
Okay.
This is the piece that fits into your rack that allows the distribution of fiber that goes out to your home.
Okay.
This is a point where you can splice fiber.
Okay.
If you need to. You can bury this, you can hang it. It's a sealed product, it has a dove closure.
Okay. So it's weatherproof
Yes,
type.
all of these are.
Okay.
Part of the technology for this company is that it seals the plant, so you don't have to worry about water intrusion and intrusion. It's a gel sealing patented technology of all the products.
Outstanding. Thank you.
There's literature here that I'll read. You're welcome to take it and look through it.
Thank you.
We're just gonna stay for a little while so we can look at the stuff and ask questions to you guys afterwards.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is comments from the public. Public is free to comment on items at this time that are not listed on the agenda. Public participation is welcome and encouraged for all items on the agenda as the topics are discussed. Please be mindful of others who may wish to speak and limit your time at the podium appropriately. So, is there anyone that has anything they'd like to bring to the attention of the commission at this time? All right, then, we'll move along to new business, there being none in the way of old business. Resolution number R-15-32, a resolution to execute agreements for City of Coffeyville employee insurance coverage. Finance Director Stephanie Richardson will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, at the last meeting, the Health Insurance Committee, Don Onslager, came before the Commission and explained the health insurance proposal. This simply brings back the resolution to allow the mayor to execute those agreements. It would be for the specific and aggregate stop loss, the administrative services with Meritain, dental insurance with Delta Dental, and life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance with AIG. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
One question. Last week, we had this entire presentation. What was presented at that point and what we have in front of us, nothing's changed. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't have any further questions.
Is Don
I don't believe
Slager here?
Don's present this evening.
No, he's not here. Okay, all right. So nothing has changed?
No.
All right. Any questions, Commissioners?
I move to approve resolution number R-15-32 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-32 for adoption. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Parker.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Next is ordinance number S-15-03, first reading of an ordinance to rezone property for Acme Foundry and single-family residential R-1 to light industrial I-1 at 1402 South Willow, 1401 South Spruce, and 1501 South Spruce. City Planner Architect Dennis Jacobs will make comments. Dennis?
Mayor and Commissioners, Planning Commission met in regular session on March the 3rd. At that meeting, Acme Foundry was represented to present to the Planning Commission their application for rezoning of property that they own adjacent to their plant operations. The property has been in the process of being acquired over the last several years, and they felt that it was appropriate at this time to consolidate their zoning, because they're in a mixed zoning situation right now, into all light industrial, which is what their factory buildings and other properties are already zoned. They did it for two reasons. Number one, they're in the process of expanding their shipping and warehousing facility, and in addition, longer term, are looking at expansion of the foundry proper and are wanting to zone the property prior to their starting their planning and design work for that expansion. And this is in conjunction with the recently discussed expansion of the street system adjacent to the foundry with the KDOT grant funds. The Planning Commission had several questions. There were some questions from audience members with regard to properties that they owned around the foundry. And after hearing discussion for both sides of the position, that the Planning Commission voted unanimously for approval of a recommendation to you for the rezoning. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have with regard to the planning process. We also have representatives from Acme Foundry here if you have any questions in particular on their activities.
I'm just curious, deduced from your documentation and what you said, Planning and Zoning voted 6-0 unanimously in favor of this. What were some of the concerns with property owners?
One of the adjacent property owners had a question with regard to what they thought would be hopscotch zoning, but in actuality, all the properties that Acme currently owns from Spruce Street to the east is being rezoned. There are a couple of properties that are on Willow Street, which is a street next to them on the east that they have not acquired, and obviously they're not going to rezone those properties. They're in residential use right now.
I have one question. Did you have any further?
No.
My only question is the folks that showed up to inquire about this at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, they were able to speak their piece. They were able to say whatever they wanted to say. Is that correct? And their concerns were vetted by the commission. Is that correct?
Yes. There was one of the residents that lived across the street on the east side of Willow was concerned about what the use of that property was going to be, and Acme responded that they were going to expand their parking area because as they tear down Robinson Packer and put the warehousing and shipping area to exit onto Spruce, which is their property since we vacated it some time back, rather than onto 14th Street, which is congested with the railroad crossings and all of that right now, that it would move their parking to Willow Street. And they would be fencing that parking lot, which now those properties are just open and vacant. And from my staff report, if you looked at the photos, you see that those areas that do border on Willow Street are open right now and just vacant residential property.
So those folks got to say whatever they wanted to say. The second question I had is each one of these ordinances are in consecutive session of 15, 32, 33, and then is this the correct, or is that?
That's an ordinance, and the others are resolutions.
There you go. There's a reason behind that.
It's rezonings are an ordinance change rather than a resolution.
Commissioner Williams, they take 2 readings, so this will be the first reading, and then it will come back at the next meeting for the second time.
I'm learning.
That's good questions.
Thank you. That's all I have.
How are, having lived down in that region growing up, I know there's a lot of noise level down there already for the train yard, and also traffic-wise, number one, how do you think traffic-wise it'll do with that neighborhood, and noise-wise? Think will it go up? Do you guys feel that just in the daytime, are they only doing shipping in the daytime?
I'm not an expert in foundry business, but I would anticipate that the noise level that has been there in the past would not be increased by expansion activities that they have. From a traffic standpoint, I think, as I mentioned earlier, by exiting the shipping and receiving off of their own private property, which is Spruce Street, instead of off of 14th Street, which is really a major east-west thoroughfare because of the railroad crossing, I think it will simplify and relieve some of the 14th Street congestion. And in addition, the KDOT grant-funded project that will move traffic away from the railroad area and Spruce and move it to Willow Street and widening the curves will allow a smoother transition for service trucks in and out of Acme to be able to transition, and they'll relocate their scales, I believe they mentioned, as a part of this overall project as well.
Any other questions?
I'm guessing none of the residents are here.
Any questions from the audience? All right, then I move to approve ordinance number S-15-03 for first reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Commissioner Kessler to approve ordinance number S-15-03 for first reading. Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Kessler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Thank you, Dennis. Next is resolution number R-15-33, a resolution to purchase pressure vessels for the electric utility. Electric Utility Deputy Director Mike Shuck will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. First of 4 items that I bring before you this evening is to execute an agreement to supply pressure vessels for generation facility number 2. The electric utility used a competitive and cooperative bid process again as issued with Stillwater Utility Authority to obtain bids to supply pressure vessels for the new generation project. 3 proposals in total were received from the following vendors: Aero Tank for $90,200, Tiger Tank $65,800, and Samuel Pressure Vessel Group for $58,455, or $58,445, excuse me. These pressure vessels will be used in conjunction with the plant starting and station air compressors as receiving tanks. Therefore, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Samuel Pressure Vessel Group to supply pressure vessels for the amount not to exceed $58,445. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
The only question I have is that, looking at all of the jumped ahead earlier, looked at it and just wanted to reconfirm, in every single case, we did in fact select the lowest bidder. And so my question is, it's not always necessarily true. It doesn't follow that the lowest bid is necessarily the best in terms of getting the most quality, the biggest bang for a buck. So the question is, are you satisfied that we are in fact getting the best that we can at the most economical rate?
In my opinion, yes, but we're paying Burns and McDonnell Engineering a large sum of money to vet all these for us. So based on that as well, my answer is yes.
Is this the same equipment Stillwater is using?
It is.
How far ahead are they actually using the equipment yet, or?
No, they actually went out for bids, and I think their commission approved these probably we're about a month behind. We're rapidly catching up with 4 items coming for you this evening.
Move to approve resolution number R-15-33 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Edwards and seconded by Commissioner Williams to approve resolution number R-15-33 for adoption. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Next, resolution number R-15-34, resolution to purchase lube oil tanks for the electric utility.
The second item here, as you indicated, this is an agreement to supply 1 10,000 and 2 6,000-gallon tanks for the new generation facility. As you stated, these tanks will be used for lube oil storage for the Wärtsilä engines. Again, the competitive and cooperative bid process issued by the Stillwater Utility Authority was used to secure these tanks. On this one, we received 3 proposals in total, one from Creco Tanks for $225,570, a second from 8760 Service Group for $143,285.79, and the third, United Industries Group, came in at $117,325. Therefore, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with United Industries Group to supply 1 10,000-gallon and 2 6,000-gallon tanks for an amount not to exceed $117,325.
Just a quick question, kind of what he said a minute ago. Have you seen the specs for these and why one costs $100,000 more than the other if they do the same thing?
I've seen the bids. I can't speak to why one was 100 or 200,000 versus.
All right.
I wish I could.
But same thing, they've looked them over and they recommend it?
Yes.
All right.
I move to approve resolution R-15-34 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-34 for adoption. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Mayor Faulkner.
Aye. Next, resolution number R-15-35, a resolution to purchase fiberglass reinforced plastic urea tank for the electric utility.
Mayor, again, this item was bid through the cooperative and competitive bid process issued by Stillwater Utility Authority. On this item, 5 proposals in total were received for this tank. One from Creco at $84,219, Daniel Company at $99,499, Diamond Fiberglass $100,070, and Delco for $83,688, and the low bid came in from Thorpe Plant Services at $74,755. Therefore, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Thorpe Plant Services to supply a 20,000-gallon fiberglass reinforced plastic tank for the amount not to exceed $74,755.
I guess a follow-on question, part of the same series of questions is, to what extent are you aware that the companies that are getting the lowest bids in these various sundry pieces of equipment, these companies have in fact had a significant amount of experience working in this kind of an environment?
Yes.
Electric utilities and providing this kind of equipment. Are you satisfied that the company itself is qualified?
I am, based on information I received from the engineers.
All right then. Any questions?
No, sir.
Move to approve resolution R-15-35 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-35 for adoption. Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
All right then. Leave your last item, resolution number R-15-36, a resolution to purchase a generator step-up transformer for the electric utility.
Again, with this item, this was a competitive bid went out through Stillwater Utility Authority for bids to supply a 13.8 kV to 69 kV generator step-up transformer for the new generation project. All 3 generators will tie into this one transformer. We'll step the voltage up from 13.8 kV up into 69 kV and tie it into our sub-transmission system. On this unit, on this item, 7 proposals in total were received from the following vendors: ABB, CG Power, Delta Star, Ilgen, Siemens, Virginia Transformer, and WEG. 5 of the proposals were judged to be sufficient, compliant, and were evaluated further by Burns & McDonnell. A total evaluated cost utilizing loss evaluation values to determine the normalized total cost of ownership was used. Using that, WEG was determined to be the lowest cost bidder, which also guaranteed delivery dates. Therefore, on this item, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with WEG Electric Corporation for the amount not to exceed $599,330.
Questions?
I have none.
All right then, I move to approve resolution number R-15-36 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-36 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you. At this time,
Yeah, I was going to suggest
I was
that
going
we
to suggest a break.
that we take a break
All right.
for the fine
All right.
folks to be able to.
Yeah,
do what
let's
they
take
need.
about a 10-minute break. That should be sufficient to reconvene at 10 till 8, or at the sound of the gavel, whichever ones you hear first.
Second.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Next is resolution number R-15-37, a resolution to accept the donation of property located at 1112 West 10th Street and a $7,500 seller concession from Wells Fargo Bank. Assistant City Manager Tricia Purdon will make comments. Tricia.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. About a month ago, we got a call from Wells Fargo saying that the property at 1112 West 11th was being foreclosed upon, or West 10th, sorry, was being foreclosed upon. They were willing to donate it as part of their government grant program to the city so that we might utilize it for low-income housing, whoever else might want it. They also said they would throw in a $7,500 seller's concession that we could use towards that property in any way we would like. This would include demolition, rehab. We could use it as a loan program for someone who needs to get into the home and needs a home loan, any way we need. We contacted Habitat for Humanity because we know that, it's hard to turn over these houses, and we really don't have the manpower to do a housing program at this point. So Habitat for Humanity said they were very interested in the property. We all went out and looked at it. It's in very poor condition. Externally, it looks very good, honestly. We thought it was going to be a very good property, possibly for low-income housing, but it appears to have pretty severe water and termite damage based on, initial inspections. Without paying money to get more inspections, it's pretty obvious, though. We determined that it'd probably be in the best benefit for the neighborhood to go ahead and demolish that property. Habitat for Humanity said they would still like to have the property as long as we demolished it first. We could use the $7,500 to do that demolition and clear the property and then donate to Habitat, for which point they could then use to build a new home in that neighborhood, which that neighborhood is definitely in need of. We saw this as a win-win opportunity and wanted to bring this to the Commission for discussion and resolution.
So when they donate it to the city,
yes,
it's ours free and clear. We don't have any tax or nothing. No.
Correct. They pay all the back taxes.
No,
It's
no
completely
strings
clear.
attached that we're not being. I just want to make sure it's ours free and clear. We don't have any issues, any hidden. When you see a car commercial, they got all the, and then they say, well, at the bottom, subject to 47 other exclusions. I just want to make sure that's not the deal here.
I had Paul Kreitz review the contract from Wells Fargo also, just to make sure. But yeah, they make sure it's very clearly stated in the contract that all past due taxes, any blight, fines, fees, anything attributed to that property in any way, shape, or form will be completely paid up before they donate it to the city.
And this is written in a contract form, so therefore they're entering into a contract with us. So basically, I'm just going to make sure we get our $7,500.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
All right, and that'll be, that's on the corner, so that'll be a nice piece of property.
It's actually in the center. 1112 West 10th. I think there's a property on either side of it, a brick home.
Okay.
But there's a couple other properties on that lot that have already been blighted and torn down. So there's definitely some opportunity for several infill houses could go in there eventually.
All right, okay. Any questions?
Nope.
No, sir. Then I'll move to approve resolution number R-15-37 for adoption.
Second. You can have that one.
Motion was made by Mayor Parker and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-37 for adoption. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Castler?
Aye.
Mayor Faulkner?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Next is resolution number R-15-38. Resolution to execute an agreement with Olson and Associates to develop a plan for a possible transloading facility. Assistant to the City Manager, Tricia Purdon, will make comments. Tricia.
Good evening again. In case you weren't aware, recently the state of Kansas issued an announcement that they were going to be putting a new transloading facility somewhere in the state of Kansas. They identified 18 communities that they had already deemed to be a targeted zone that they would want to put that transloading facility in. Coffeyville was selected. After speaking with Mike King, Secretary Mike King of the Department of Transportation, he said that Coffeyville has a very good chance of getting this facility, but there are some definite issues that we need to make sure are very clearly stated in our proposal in order to be selected as one of the top contenders for this project. We had been speaking with Olson and Associates since the conference in Chicago with the City of Independence and Montgomery County Action Council in looking how we could create a more proactive view of economic development and trying to recruit businesses into our communities. Olson and Associates was deemed as one of the better programs or consultants to do this kind of planning for recruitment layout of how a certain project could go in and be feasible. Because of the very, very short turnaround we had, we got the announcement from the state of what we were looking at on March 11th. We contacted Olson Associates to put together a proposal of what they could maybe put together on the site that we've identified as a potential transloading facility here in Coffeyville. Initially, I provided you with their contract that said $41,000 for that entire project. That would include the full environmental phases, studying the titles to the property, making sure there's no environmental concerns, make sure that right-of-ways are taken care of. All the legal stuff is also taken care of, as well as design, layout, renderings, drawings, several different options that we could look at, the state could look at, and any companies wanting to locate with the transloading facility could look at and identify. Thinking that through, we realized that that's a huge investment on something we don't even know if we're going to get. So we contacted Olson Associates again this week to see if they could turn it into a phase 1, phase 2. Basically, give us, the short and sweet version of what do you envision in this project for less than $5,000. And so we can turn that into the state. It looks polished, it looks competitive, and addresses all the concerns that Secretary Mike King addressed with us recently. They said they could do that for less than $5,000. That $5,000 would also go towards that $41,000 for the full project cost if we are selected as one of the top contenders by the state of Kansas. I would suggest that maybe we look at this for phase 1, and I come back to you when we find out. Hopefully by April 11th is when the state's supposed to come back, and then I can let you know whether or not we go forward with phase 2. Phase 2 would then include everything I mentioned before, the full environmental, and it's in that contract that's in your packet, so you can kind of see what they would go through. And they said they could have this done by April 30th, which is impressive. So
When the state coming back?
the state said they would let us know if we're a top contender by April 17th, and then we would have to have final proposal in by April 30th, so 2 weeks later. So it's a very fast turnaround project. They would then do full evaluations between May 1st and May 30th. They would come down and do full site evaluations from KDOT.
I'm in support of the idea of getting this transloading facility. I think it'll help Coffeyville, but I got two things I want to talk about. Mr. King had mentioned that we need to approach it as a community or a region kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How much is our neighbors putting in on this?
At this point, none. I definitely could go to the county commission and see if they would be interested in partnering with us on this project. Would not be opposed to that, and if commissioners would like to come also and help relay that message, I think that would be very good.
And secondly, if we're getting the very basic version of this, is it not possible for in-house staff to come up with something?
That kind of timeline, it's going to be really pushing it. They have experts that know rail. They know how to draw out rail that would actually work for a transload facility. They understand right-of-way access, feet, yards that a certain train would have to have in order to use that facility. I don't know. I know I don't have that expertise. I really can't speak to our one person we would have on staff that maybe could do that. I know he's pretty backed up right now with some of the other projects going on. It'd be tight.
one of the, one of, if not the major focus that Secretary King mentioned was that, yes, he was impressed and he did like the fact that we're so close to Port of Catoosa with that sort of international transportation capability on our doorstep. But the focus would be export, in that what existing companies do we have in the area, in the region, that would be able to increase their export capacity at a cheaper rate, and what companies would be able to begin exporting that just may be selling their projects locally or regionally. So my concern is how is the consultant going to pull that information together that quickly in order to present a clear package to the Department of Transportation that, yes, we have looked at it from a regional standpoint, and this is going to be the export impact, which will, in the long run, additional exports from a company means more jobs, and that's the bottom line.
Well, luckily, that is the area that I'm good at. Working with Montgomery County Action Council for 2 years, and now working for the city, between myself and Aaron Heckman and the Chamber, we're working together to pull every single business we possibly can by next week to find out their current export, what they're looking at potential exports for the future. And I've put together a survey we're sending out to every business that we have contacts with tomorrow. It's already been put together, and it's going out first thing in the morning. So we should have a pretty good access. I've already been approached by 2 businesses that would already put new jobs in the hundreds if we got this.
All right, and then also I think it's a factor probably not as critical to the project, but the question that I have is how many jobs, do we have any idea how many jobs this facility itself would create? That would probably require contacting other locations such as Gardner to see what their communities look like before and after, what kind of jobs, try and extrapolate that number so we could see if there was any, what sort of jobs.
Right. Gardner
at the
is
facility.
The huge scale. That's the Google to mom and pop blog search engine. I mean, if you're going to compare the two. But, I mean, when Gardner put in their giant BNSF intermodal, I mean, they quoted 10,000 jobs were going to come in with that project. And you can go out there and see it now. They've got 7 new distribution centers that have popped up just surrounding that entire intermodal, and we all know how many jobs go with the distribution center. So I would say just for that facility, I don't know how many people would it would be basically running a rail yard. But we also see that it's very likely, based on what I've already heard from several businesses' feedback, that they would be able to say to their suppliers, now we have an intermodal, so you would be able to supply not only us, but all your other companies you're sending off to at a much reduced rate because of the cost of freight from semi to rail. And we all know rail is much cheaper than semi-truck traffic. So they'd be able to bring those suppliers in here. It's potential for several jobs could be created by this facility. The idea of how many, I really don't know, but based on what I've already heard from local businesses saying they would expand. Like I said, we're looking at least 100 to 200 just from a couple that came to me already. So.
All right. Thank you. Questions? Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. My question is, first of all, we went from 41,000 down to 5,000. I think I just tell you, it was kind of a hard pill to swallow to authorize $41,000 on a what if.
Right.
My question to you is the state is going to narrow this field down from 18 to what?
I would assume 2 or 3. They haven't said. I think we'll know once. We'll know, and at that point we can come to the commission, or I can, if time is of the essence, I can notify the commission of what we're looking at.
Okay. I think it is a $5,000 investment in something that could be potentially advantageous for our community is much easier to swallow than a $41,000.
Agreed.
The second thing is I think also that Montgomery County is invested in basically the welfare of, we're all intertwined, whether it be Coffeyville, Independence, Montgomery County, we're all in the same group together. I think that I'd like to see you go to the county commission and ask them to put their money, you know, where they say that they're for economic development and they're for yada yada, and this is a very small investment that could be made that could dramatically impact the entire county. The other thing is that I think that if I'm just going out on a limb, I think, like I said, it's a very small investment. I think that you would have a much harder time selling a $41,000 investment than you will basically a $2,500 investment.
Right.
If we partner up. But April 18th, if we have it down to 2 communities, then I think that we need to really seriously contemplate, you know, putting our money, our best foot forward, more or less, to try to outsway this other community, whoever they may be. But that's my 2 cents.
I'd say I've seen examples of what Olson did in Chicago. They weren't allowed to share those with us legally because they were the property of those other cities, but they did a transloading facility down in Oklahoma, and it was incredible. What they did to showcase that, to market it, a business would be crazy not to want to buy into that project. It was pretty impressive.
So the second question is where's this come from?
It would come out of our economic development funds right now is what I have.
And we have
listed as.
spent how much out of that fund?
Yeah, we
Zero?
really haven't spent, just the Whitaker and Associates, which was, what, $5,000?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And the next county commission meeting, is that Monday?
yeah, it's on Monday.
Monday.
I'll contact Charlotte Scott Schmidt and see if we can get on their agenda.
Okay, and that's in their commission room
It's on, yeah, in their commission room on the first floor of the Judicial Center.
at what time? 9 o'clock?
9 a.m.
9 o'clock, okay.
It's in the basement.
Yeah,
But-
it's in the basement. I think technically they call it the first floor, but yes, it's definitely the basement.
I'll be there.
Okay, wonderful.
And make sure Aaron is there as well.
Yes, absolutely. He's been an integral part of this, as well as Stacia from the chamber. They've been working with us on
Okay.
this project. So.
All right. Any other questions? Then I move to approve resolution number R-15-38 for adoption.
The resolution, does it,
At 5,000.
right, it doesn't have a amount tied to it, so I want to specify that was 5,000. Up to
Not to
5,000.
exceed.
Not to exceed
Not to
$5,000.
exceed 5,000.
Was there a second?
I second it.
Motion was made by Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Commissioner Williams to approve resolution number R-15-38 for adoption. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Mayor Faulkner.
Aye. All right. Next is discussion on entering into an agreement with Olson Associates to complete industrial park plan. Tricia, you still have the podium?
Good evening again. This one really is just for some long-term planning, economic development, so you can take that price tag and think of this as a long-term thing we might do in the future. Because we were already working on this intermodal or transloading facility with Olson, we'd also mentioned that our industrial park had some issues, and we were looking to maybe need to expand into other areas of our industrial park in the future if we were going to continue to grow our industrial park. We identified the property that the city owns that is over by where Lauren Cook currently is. It borders our airport, and it would be ideal for future expansion of our industrial park It wouldn't have any contamination issues that we've recently heard of. So basically, they put together this proposal because we talked to them about this potential project, more so we have an education of what it's going to cost if we're going to do a full plan like they would do for our transloading facility. We could maybe put this in our long-term economic development plan, but this also might prove to be key that when we will have to go out for bid, obviously, for this. But let's say we get the transloading facility and we have 5 new businesses that want to come to Coffeyville. We have this in our pocket to at least know how much we could anticipate spending to put together a plan to recruit these businesses in if we have that happen. So it's more of an educational purpose come for you in front of you for this today. I'd be more than happy to answer questions though about that project.
Backing up
Yes.
one level. Instead of continuously looking at those properties when different businesses come in and saying, oh, they're contaminated, and then go look at the north end of the industrial park, what's it going to take to find out and finally get resolution on who is responsible for cleaning up that mess, getting it cleaned up so that we've got property and buildings available there that can be used for prospective businesses?
Are we able to say what we're talking about?
The EPA came out with a study about a year ago that basically said that there were some potential contaminants that affected air quality around what used to be a former military base. It appears that they had dumped possibly barrels of oil or something into the ground. Basically, it's an issue that it's out there. EPA has deemed that property potentially contaminated. We would need to go back through and see who's responsible, like the mayor said.
So until then, that building's just going to sit empty and.
Right, unless a company is wanting to use it for something that wouldn't have a lot of staff in the building or something. So,
It's a heck of a building to waste.
It's a really great building. So I'm learning about some remediation so that we can get that building marketed would be important.
But my experience with KDHE, the building that we bought down here next to the fire station, they still have not told us that who's responsible for that. So,
are we doing anything to figure out?
It's a long
out
process.
there?
Is there any way to expedite that to make it a little quicker, or is it just government stuff?
That's not like a good industrial park plan to me. I mean,
I can contact our federal senators and representatives to see if they might be able to help us expedite that. I think it's just a long brownfields EPA process to
Because
determine
the last I heard on that, there was a lot of finger pointing like this between KDHE, the Army Corps of Engineers, and they were all saying it belongs to the other guy.
Right.
We need to nail it down. Who's responsible? And then if it is brownfields, let's get on with it. Let's get it cleaned up so it's usable.
Okay.
And yes, future utilization of the north end of the industrial park. We hope that's a good problem that we have, that we don't have enough property or plan, land for expansion up there. But thank you. Next, discussion on city parks.
that was me. Something we've talked about before, kind of. This is more of, I'm trying to figure something out here. Since I've been on the commission, I think we've talked about parks maybe 3 times. We've discussed something to do with the fountain. We've approved the aeration system of Leclerc Park. And maybe we've talked once about the pool house. So basically, we're not giving the parks enough attention. And one main thing I hear about in this town a lot is that there is not anything to do as far as activities for families. I asked a business leader the other day to give me his perspective of Coffeyville from both sides, as a leader and as a citizen. As a leader, he said he's covered. As a citizen, give me and my family something to do. So I kind of go back to the parks. So what I'm asking is, how can we better serve our parks? And one thing I think maybe is we should have some discussion on forming a Parks and Rec Commission, people that are dedicated to doing this. Maybe they can be proactive in utilizing the facilities we have, like the stadium perhaps, going out trying to find things to do with that stadium. Improving our parks, the ones that pre-exist now, other than just keep mowing them and replacing the slide as it breaks down. They need attention, and they're not getting it.
I can sympathize with that. There are two park systems that around locally that I am jealous of, and that's Winfield and Independence. I know Independence has what's called Four Paws or something along that line, and it's a lot of the community helping. I think if we want to get a great park system, I think we need to look to the community, and some of the businesses could help. I know that's not cheap to do equipment nowadays. It's not made the same stuff. When I grew up, I went on the hill and I played on that rickety spaceship. I loved it, but nowadays you can't do that. We grew up in a different era.
They tore it down.
I know it, and it's moved somewhere else, from what I understand. I'm for. I think those need to be our goals. I think we have some parks that have been neglected that came to light not too long ago, and we changed some things. I don't know if we need to merge some parks. I don't know what we need to do.
I don't want this discussion to turn into like every other one where we talk about it for 10 minutes.
No, I agree. Something needs to happen.
So I guess I'm not sure who to direct it to over at that table and what you guys think about this. How do you go about creating a park commission, and do you guys think that's something that needs to happen? People that are proactive, that's what they do, is improve our parks.
So just to clarify, the city rec is not.
That was another question I have. Where does the city rec fit into the parks? I know they take care of and they do a heck of a job on the basketball courts and the ball diamonds and the batting cages. Where do they fit into the parks as far as doing things with the parks? And is that their area?
No. I think ultimately the real question here is, why does the city rec why do they have purview over some of the city's recreation facilities and amenities, and
Not
they
all.
don't others?
But they do a heck of a job in what they do. I'd like to see that same
We've
effort
asked-
done all over.
We've asked them in the past couple of years if they would be willing to take on things like, I believe the tennis courts on Stark Street, the aquatic center, and they basically told us no.
By the
Said
way,
no.
this is not an effort to get CRC to do it. I just wanted to get the conversation out there. Whatever the end game is, I want something to happen.
I know City Rec cannot own real estate, and that's one issue, and we lease the city-owned facilities to the Recreation Commission. I don't know, I mean, as far as maintaining the parks, that could be a discussion with CRC. I know we have a tree board. I don't remember if we have a parks board. Of course, we have several boards that are no longer in existence, but disbanded it completely, yeah, so.
How would we go about creating a parks commission and empower them to move forward to do things to our
Just take a
parks?
resolution, wouldn't it?
A resolution or an ordinance, one or the other, yeah. You could impanel some sort of a advisory committee or a.
Would that be something that you would just write up to have us look at?
I think so. Maybe look at the statutes and see what state law provides about it, first of all.
I think before we start slinging ordinances out there, I think that maybe we should invite, David Raines
That'd be a good idea.
down here to our next meeting and put something on the agenda where we can have an open discussion between us and I mean, they may have said no 2-3 years ago, but perhaps they have a different perspective. Perhaps they have a reason why they don't want anything to do with it, and maybe it's a good reason. We don't know because no one's here to talk to us about it.
I think it's good to hear what they have to say.
I thought we had this discussion before when the gentleman from out of town came and talked about.
We've never invited Mr. Raines to the meeting.
That's a good example right there. That issue might have been took care of before going over there, if there had been an active board reviewing the parks to make sure that kind of stuff hadn't happened, because it was terrible over there.
It was terrible elsewhere. It was terrible elsewhere too.
So can we agree to invite him down here so
Yes,
we
sir.
If
can
he wants to accept.
Okay.
have a nice discussion with him to see
Nice discussion.
what their perspective is on this situation?
I appreciate you guys actually continuing forward with this. I don't
You want that
die
done for
in
the
it.
next meeting?
That'd be
Yes.
that'd be fine.
I just don't want this to flounder again like we.
All right. Then Commission will take that up at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is the city manager's report.
I have none.
All right, then, comments from commissioners and staff. Any staff personnel that you have here this evening would like to make any comments?
That was my
All
comment.
right, commissioners.
I only have one comment. I'd like to apologize for being slightly late. I had a family issue that had precedents that obviously I respect my position and I appreciate everyone who do and don't have confidence in me in this position. If you don't, that's fine too. But sometimes your family has to proceed other issues, and like I said, I was about 3 or 4 minutes late, so I'd like to apologize for that
We understand, Chris.
deal.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Appreciate being notified ahead of time, too.
I have. You have anything, Don?
No.
I've been approached by a few citizens regarding this survey, and they feel inadequate to answer a question. Is it possible to have a town meeting before the next meeting so we can get everybody up to speed? Because I feel like we're sending them to do a test and not giving them a study guide. That's a terrible analogy, but
What benefit would we get from that?
Information.
Without any existing data.
then what's taking so long to get
Data.
information?
I think the problem is we don't know what the end cost is for the
Can-
proposed structure.
Can
that
people not
town
see
came up with.
plans that the fire department, and they have plans, can they not see what they're looking at? Just a viewing of stuff like we did with the last time when we looked at the city hall. Can we not do something like that? It ain't gonna take very long as people come in, mill around and look.
Sure, you direct us to do that as a commission, we'll do it.
People want to know.
I mean, the survey that we're sending out was directed by you guys.
My question is what are they looking at? They're
Schematics.
Do what?
Schematics, looking at pictures of other ones that have been around. I went to the one in Mulvane, and I think people need to see what we have to offer. Is it going to hurt anybody to get information out there so that they can better look at things and see what would be in each one?
What's the address of City Hall?
11 East Second.
If anyone wants to see the schematics, they'll be at 11 East 2nd all week long.
Well, we've got a floor plan of the,
Can you not put it out
of
there
the
for
police
anyone,
and sure,
for anyone that wants to see?
yeah.
So we're sticking with the survey
It's a
that we don't know
draft.
the answers to.
It's a draft, it may change.
But they have a general idea.
So I would,
Well, having it available at City Hall in the conference room would afford
Yes, because
a
it's-
greater opportunity for more people than a
It's just so
specific
centralized
time
that
window
people are
for
just going to flock that way.
for a town meeting.
and the deal is that, if you have, okay, we're going to have this meeting on Friday night at 6 o'clock. Well, if I can't make it Friday night at 6 o'clock, well, then I guess I just don't get to see it, do I? But perhaps I can make it at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning. If it's available to all the folks, you put on the website that it's available at the City Hall, whatever address she said. And like I said, I'm kind of scatterbrained tonight, but I think that solves that issue. You get, your constituents can show up and view whatever they need to view. And I think that makes it amenable to everybody to have the opportunity to, whenever they choose from such time to such time, to show up and look at the documents, they can feel free to show up.
There would be a need to accommodate those that are working.
Exactly.
And would need to come either in on an evening or a weekend in order to take a look at it. So we would need to accommodate that group as well. Can we do that without any significant impact?
What are the hours of City Hall?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
8 to 5?
So pick a day and have someone stay till 5:45.
Everything's legit.
Put somebody on summer hours, noon to 9.
If it's that big of a deal, tell me what day, I'll come sit there.
I'll join you.
Okay.
Maybe that's the answer.
That's the answer.
Maybe we could have a couple of commissioners sitting there to
But only
take.
two.
Only two.
We can't answer questions. We could take notes.
You guys volunteer, there you go.
Is that acceptable to you, Commissioner Castler?
No, but do what you want to do.
All right, thank you.
Is it okay with you?
It's okay.
Where's the date? Okay, all right. Several days or the week of, or what? As far as
Let's
having
pick a day
the
next week.
information laid out in the conference room, on the conference table, where anybody can come in and look. And
Wednesday, next week.
Next Wednesday.
I'll be there till 6 o'clock.
Okay?
There you go.
There you go. Put that on Facebook and we'll put it out there then.
And
Thank you.
put it out there, all right? Any other comments? Commissioners?
I have none.
Okay. All right, then, at this point, move that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition of real property. Are there any other issues that we need to discuss while we're there, commissioners?
Non-elected personnel.
We do, okay, and non-elected personnel. So that will be number 2. And to reconvene, let's see, it's...
1 hour,
We'll need 1 hour, okay?
not to exceed.
Not to exceed 1 hour to reconvene on or about 9:25. All in favor?